U.S. dollar supernotes and Iraqi dinar supernotes in an attempt to crash both currencies. This same maneuver failed during the Cold War with Russia in 1979, but that doesn't seem to stop them from repeating the same mistakes. And more on the death of Jacob Rothschild as the family tries to remain relevant in world affairs. In 2013, the Order of the Dragon announced they would crash the world's financial system and buy it back for pennies on the dollar. Rumors are swirling the internet of a potential for government shutdowns on Friday and a financial crash. Find out how all of these events are tied together and why this could actually help us in the very near future. In a real war, nothing is a certainty. Find out what the Silent Circle was up to this weekend and why there was a line drawn in the sand on Monday as their nefarious plans came to light over the weekend. Plus an update on the attempted global takeover by the Black nobility families. Now here's Kimberly Gogan with the Office of the Guardian. Hi, Kim. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. It's been a long time since we talked.
It has. I know you've been busy. There's a lot to get to today, I'm sure.
A ton of stuff to get to today. So where shall we start? We'll start with the events from over the weekend, I guess, that led up to Monday's fiasco. Okay. So on Saturday, I started listening to a meeting. As you know, there's a lot of operatives around here, as we talked about on Friday. Lots of meetings going on between them and others around the world as far as structures, how to move forward, those types of things, now that they're free agents. But, you know, these people must feel they appear to be the hottest commodity on the planet right now as it relates to the deep state, because if it's not one group trying to regain control of them, then it's another group trying to regain control of them in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
So I'm listening to a meeting on Saturday, and it was between the Silent Circle, the Anti-Silent Circle, which are the Black nobility families. That's your Anti-Silent Circle. And they all appear to be together having the same conversation with the operatives. They're making...
Kim, can I just interject for a second? So when you say Anti-Silent Circle, can we just clarify, because we had the markers, right?
Right.
And so which of the Anti-Silent Circle disappeared? Because I think a lot of us thought the whole Anti-Silent Circle was going to go away if they didn't fulfill with the markers, what they agreed to in the markers. But that must not be the case. So can you just clarify that again?
No, it wasn't the case. So each family has a family head. Predominantly, most of those family heads reside in Italy or in Europe. You know, you will see some scattered in different places, but their base of operations has always been in Italy.
Okay.
They are heavily tied to the Catholic Church, the Order of the Jesuits, Opus Dei. You have every Italian mafia on the planet and every mafia on the planet underneath their umbrella. So you're talking, you know, and every gang's underneath those mafias. So you can take it all the way from the top and go all the way down the food chain. And you're talking about millions of people. You're not talking about 5 people or a small operation here.
Okay.
Their downline is enormous.
Okay.
So, yes, the Silent Circle did take out the heads of each one of those families.
I see.
However, what they did is they brought their downline under their umbrella. This is what we talked about last week.
Right.
So we assumed by bringing them under their umbrella that there would be some semblance of order and sanity.
Right.
But that was not the case at all. They just took over the downline and took over some assets, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. And then in Saturday's meeting, this left me really confused because I'm listening to the Silent Circle, the tables, say to these operatives, we're going to give you big money. The payouts will be on Monday, and here's what we're going to have you do. They were talking about the fake assassination of Donald Trump, the crashing of the United States dollar, the distribution of disease X, and they were divvying up jobs and contracts between operatives. It was in the war in Israel. They're going to continue the war in Russia, and they're talking about all the normal stuff that's been going on all along. I'm like, what just happened to you?
Well, it's exactly what the other guys were doing. I don't understand. Maybe was it just an internal feud where they wanted to lead it and not the heads of the, anti-silent circle? Like, they're doing the same thing. It doesn't even make sense.
Well, after further investigation into this, and I have to go back to all the parts in between here, but after further investigation of this, that I know his mom, or his mom knows me, we're related in some way, let's just say. And she advised him not to do what he's doing right now.
And just to clarify, Kim, so everyone knows what we're talking about, whose mom are you? Yeah. Can we just
the head of the Silent Circle?
Okay. Yes.
Who has been instrumental in guiding things along here. Right. They advised him not to do what he's doing, but the pretense behind everything that's transpired was, yes, in a way, a hostile takeover of the division between the two groups, and in part, it appears that they thought it would be a good idea to come to the table with us, having equal partners or having equal leverage. I know. Mm-hmm. So it didn't appear, that's what they claimed. That's what the conversation was between the mom and the head of the Silent Circle. But that's not really what it looked like to me. It looked like total death and destruction, crashing of the world, and I had this experience before. So back in 2016, 2017 was the last time I really had any dealings with anyone from the Silent Circle. Mm-hmm. They, somewhere along the pathway there, around mid 2016, they started to flip a switch on me. So everything was fine for, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it was. And we had no problems. Mm-hmm. I told you about the dollar deal. Yeah. I've told you about a number of different things. And everything was okay until that point where something started to flip. Well, it turns out that there was a contract taken for about $165 billion that they were to receive if they could get me to transfer money into this new bank setup that was being set up on the Bush Ranch. I came to find out later in Paraguay.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, it was that was the quantum system that. The system itself the data centers that they had built on the Bush Ranch in Paraguay were not quantum, but they were at the time connected to a huge level 9 Omega portal. So there could have been a possibility of a connection to a very deep, dark system. Okay. And so I'm like, where did you go wrong? Like, I started sensing the conversations were different. There was a lot of, they too installed someone to have direct contact with me that's with their group. So you could call it a handler. Mm-hmm. You could call it just a liaison, however you want to say it. It's a person that I would have contact with daily. Mm. Somewhere around mid-2017, 2017, this person started realizing that they're losing control, meaning control of me. Yeah. They were in a little bit of a panic because you made an awful lot of promises with absolutely zero delivery. And by the end of 2017, December 15th to be exact, I cut it all off. I cut off all communications with this person. And I thought that it was just that guy that took that contract. I didn't realize at the time that it was the whole Silent Circle. And that's why we kind of parted ways, but there was still an agreement based on the relationship, I guess you would say, with his mom and myself, that, there would be no harm.
Right.
Well, so when I heard this meeting this weekend, I'm like, where are they going to get this money from? Because the agreement between, the silent circle and the anti-circle was they would not use their own money.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that the entire Universal Trust was gone. Now, the Universal Trust, just to refresh your memory, was a trust. It was pretty much run by the Silent Circle and the Anti-Silent Circle. In part, it was used for money laundering on behalf of various mafia organizations. It had a connection to virtually most major banks, virtually all major banks in the world, both Tier 1 and Tier 2 in various countries. It was based in Armenia. And the trust itself was probably about 250 to 275 years old. So it was a very old trust. It had been put in place a long, long time ago. Now, on the flip side of it, a lot of campaign funds would come out of the Universal Trust. Mm-hmm. That would be for various politicians. There would be huge campaign donations, those types of things. And after they are elected or selected, as we know it, then they would say, oh, look, you have a campaign contribution here from the Colombian mafia. Oh, look, you have a campaign contribution from, the Italian mafia, the Sicilians, this and that. And then they'd basically be forced to do what they wanted them to do. So this is how they gained a lot of political control. This is why the state of New York in the U.S. is so messed up, because it's predominantly run by the anti-silent circle, let's just say. Mm-hmm. All the police force, everything you see in New York, all the politicians you see talking on TV, all have taken a part of the Universal Trust in some way, shape, or form, whether it was in the form of kickbacks, campaign funds, whether it was an arrangement of, let's just say, things that we consider unsavory for the politicians. But one way or another, yes, they were pretty much all involved. Now, to other states, not only in the U.S., but all around the world, to some degree or another. Remember, there's plenty of Russian mafia guys out there, Ukrainian mafia, you have them everywhere. So it's not an exclusive to the United States thing. So when they took over the downline and then they started wanting to continue on with the plan, I started looking for this. I'm like, is there any remnants of this Universal Trust that I just haven't seen? Turns out there was a small, I'm going to call it small compared to what it was, what I call a black server network, which is, it's like a bank inside a bank that doesn't register as accounts on file, but can be accessed through that bank. And the total amount of between fake money and real money, to some lesser degree, was around $980 trillion. Wow. Now, most of the fake money that they had showing on this black box bank network, let's call it, was not real. They had probably some odd around 15 trillion-ish, maybe combined total, if you include the silent circle, maybe 30, of their own money within this system. And then the rest was all just numbers. It's not real numbers. But it was enough to show various people that they actually had money. So money was going to be paid out. And this is where it got really tricky. You remember about several months back, about 10 months ago, something like that, we were talking about the silent circle going into all of these government institutions, and it looked like they were going to take over, and, oh, gee, it looks like the dollar deal is finally going to happen. And it probably would have, but they thought that this was going to bring us closer to being equal partners, which is also a lie. Okay. Yeah. Equal, coming to the table with both parties having something to offer to the other is fine. That's fine. I understand how business works at this level. I would understand that if they did things that way, but they lost me at Disease X and fake assassination of Donald Trump and all of the other war in Israel, a world war, right. Arms sales increasing, these types of things. And the contracts that they were attempting to hand out that did not have payment is where they lost me. Yeah. So you're just like everybody else. And I'm sorry to say, yes, we're trying to formulate beneficial relationships that could assist humanity in moving forward. But again, it's just like the case of the frog and the scorpion. We never quite made it all the way across the river, me being the frog, they being the scorpion in this particular instance. But, they made the mistake of stinging the frog halfway across the, to the finish line. And yeah, maybe they didn't think I would hear them. I don't know. But we do have that intelligence system that kind of registers everything. Yeah. So the operatives weren't really happy with what they were, what was proposing. But remember, it's all about, at this point with them, they have told all of the deep state that nobody's paying us. You don't want to pay us. You want to pay us, we move. You don't pay us, we don't move. And this has kind of kept them separate from the deep state, banking on the fact that they know they're never going to pay. It's been 17 years of no pay. Today is not that day. Yes, they have gotten some money to some degree when I transferred money into the government several times, and it was an ebb and a flow based on when I would transfer to the governments. But I haven't done that in a long time. Therefore, they haven't got paid in a long time, probably about 4 or 5 years. Mm-hmm. So they weren't real happy with this meeting. I could tell. Things kind of went quiet over the weekend. So then once I found this black box network, then I started looking even further, over the weekend. And I knew pay time was noon Eastern Standard Time. They like high noon. Maybe they watch too many Westerns. I'm not sure. And so I knew that. So then I started looking for what else was happening. Well, turns out they had issued about 9.8 quadrillion in bonds against that money as a leverage. That's a lot of quads.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
And they issued them to the Treasury departments. They issued them to governments and heads of state in an attempted hostile takeover. Yep. So they knew that if they ripped these bonds out, that they could actually crash the banking system. Now, of course, that would be a threat that would be hung over everybody's head. Now, the bonds were actually due on the 27th of February, yesterday. Anyway, so the collateral would have expired and they would have had to reissue the collateral if this is what they were going to do. So I knew this. Mm-hmm. This here, so I found all the bonds. I could see clearly that there was an attempted hostile takeover of all governments worldwide, militaries worldwide, lots of promises made. And this was all pretty much done by the anti-silent circle. But the silent circle took it as an opportunity to first of all, create their own hostile takeover of the entire network. Yeah. Then they were going to come to the party once everything had blown up and try to have a negotiation. Yeah. No, I'm not the frog. Mm. No.
Yeah, and it also just shows that they don't care about humanity either.
No.
They don't. They care about themselves and their money.
Yep. Well, so I waited till about 5 minutes to noon Eastern Standard Time on Monday, and I pulled everything, all of it. So the 980 trillion disappeared, including their regular money. All the bonds disappeared. The bonds were disappearing out of the market like crazy. The banks were basically in crisis at that point because there was no asset base. There was no backing for currencies. Everything they had attempted to do all fell apart in the span of about 15 to 20 minutes. Yep. And that's why I was not on the news on Monday, because I knew that's what I was going to have to do.
Right.
So where does this leave the financial system?
Right.
We have a second attempted crash here going on as well. So we'll talk about that in a second. But where did that leave the financial system? Well, I know there's some controversy about when U.S. trading actually stops and starts. I know they tell the public it stops at 4 o'clock. It actually doesn't stop until they're done. I have seen trading on certain special days, in times past, go on till up to 10 p.m.
Wow.
Also in the United Kingdom, I've seen it go on that long. Germany, it just depends on what the elite want to do. As far as on the daily, yes, it continues till at least 4:30, because then there's some backdoor trading that takes place based on the day's activities.
Yeah.
So you still see numbers as far as the markets are concerned moving around. Now, the rumor that's going around, the scuttlebutt you're hearing, is that the government could potentially shut down on Friday.
Are you talking about U.S. government?
The U.S. government, and where the U.S. goes, others go. Okay, this is just one rumor, and I believe they're speaking about the United States only in this rumor. And then potentially we could see a financial crash as soon as this weekend, and all of this stuff, rumors that they started spreading. Well, that was all based on the plan of the anti-silent circle. And the silent circle. So their intention was to crash everything and then buy it back for pennies on the dollar, which would then make their 14 to 15 trillion, whatever it is that they have, worth something, because everybody would be broke.
Right.
Next, in addition to that, there has been some attempts to fully crash the market and not show real market numbers. There was some experimenting going on with backdoors to not only the U.S. markets, but also markets around the world. Now, we've also seen reports on the Q-Clock site that says 100 countries are on high alert. Well, in part, that's true, because the silent circle and the anti-silent circle and others have been telling, prepare your country for a financial crash this weekend. It could be as soon as around 3 a.m. my time tomorrow morning is what they were planning. Now, when the silent circle's operations kind of went belly up, the Rothschilds were obviously in on it. All of the Order of the Dragon was obviously in on this scam. I've been hearing this rumor since 2013, where they are going to crash the world's financial system, yawn, and buy it back for pennies on the dollar, yawn, yawn. So they were going to use, apparently, the anti-silent circle for this. But it's never too late to make a huge mistake when you're Rothschild.
It's true.
So if you remember my talk, our talk, I should say, with Agent M, he mentioned a gentleman by the name of Mayer, which is spelled in this case Meyer, Rothschild.
Right.
He has been third in command in the Rothschild family for a while. Perhaps due to the recent suicide, and we'll talk about that. He has now stepped up. So when this failure became apparent on Monday, and they saw their plan all falling apart, he decided to pick up a very old Heidelberg press, which, for those of you that don't know what a Heidelberg press is, it is a printing machine for currencies. Okay. You can print U.S. dollars on them. And back before we had a worldwide financial system, these Heidelberg press machines were distributed in various countries, to include but not limited to the Philippines, China, Vietnam, Russia had one, Iran had one, mainly in the areas where all the dragons were present. The dragon family, different colors, were present. UK obviously had one, and it was for the distribution of United States dollars, based on the fact that they had started trading commodities in US dollars. Mm-hmm. So it's too heavy, it's too expensive, it's too complicated to try to ship, put all that paper, on a ship. If you're making a payment in, $1 billion, $100 billion, that's a lot of pallets of cash to be transporting. So they decided to transport the press and source the paper locally, manufacture paper locally, and then they could print all of the US dollars they needed to, in that particular location. Well, the one that they are using for today's events, in the last 24 hours, I should say, maybe 3 days, is the one originally from Iran. For some reason, Mayor Rothschild thought it was a good idea to move this press, one singular press, over to India and began rapidly printing enormous amounts of Iraqi dinar and US dollars. Now, it's time for another little history lesson so I can explain to you why they thought this would work. So back in the 1970s, Russia, USSR at the time, and Iran had a similar thought, that they would actually flood the market with United States dollar super notes, mm-hmm. and therefore then crash the United States dollar in a Cold War tactic, because they claim, which true, not true, they claimed and thought the United States, because remember, it was Russia, USSR against the USA at the time, allegedly. They claimed that the United States crashed the ruble. Mm-hmm. Now, you have a lot of, let's just say, overzealous operatives that believe that they crashed the ruble. Now, I've had at least 10 to 15 different people tell me, and you, for that matter, and I'll tell you where, that they were responsible for the crash of the ruble. People on the internet that have claimed that responsibility are Leo Wanta. If you've ever seen Leo Wanta, you can look that up. He claims he single-handedly crashed the ruble. That absolutely did not take place on Reagan's behalf, so he says. And also I have heard Juan O'Sabin actually say that he was over in Russia at that time, and he also crashed the ruble single-handedly. And he said this in an interview online.
It's like a fish story. It just keeps getting longer. How many people crashed the ruble?
I know. Well, it's the same thing with how many Jesuses, how many Josephs, how many Mother Marys do I know? Everybody's got to be something. How many people have I met that have been Metatron? I mean, you name it. Everybody wants to be some character, be it from the Bible or elsewhere.
Yeah.
Now, it was actually Marduk that crashed the ruble by agreement. This was all pre-agreed to divide all the Soviet Union countries, which they still aren't divided. So you could still say there is a Soviet Union, and you could still say there's communism, and it hasn't gone away. But the whole fight between democracy and communism, and the USSR KGB operatives at the time that were going all around the world trying to install communism everywhere. Well, the U.S. was running around trying to install democracy, and both of them were just the right hand and the left hand clapping to achieve an end result.
Yeah.
There were many different things that resulted in the Soviet Union. Let's just call it a hostile takeover at that time. Rothschild and the Order of the Dragon became very active in the oil industry there. Also, there were a lot of embargoes on the sale of diamonds. Russia has an enormous amount of diamonds. I know everybody thinks Africa and diamonds go together, but Russia also has an enormous amount. There was an embargo for a period of about 20 years, 25 years, which just ended not that long ago. And that contract was with De Beers, a.k.a. Rothschild. So there was a lot of different industries that were affected by the fall of the Soviet Union and then the allowance of foreign ownership, which would have never been allowed. And the structure was more like you see today in China, and even more so to a higher degree. So everything was owned by the government. Every citizen worked for the government. Whether didn't matter what industry you worked in, you were not owning anything, and communism itself was an experiment. And I'm telling you this story because it's important to understand that this has already happened before. So Lenin got his marching orders from Rothschild in Switzerland when he was in exile. And this is how you're going to install communism on behalf of the Khazarian mafia, a.k.a. fake Jews, a.k.a. Bolsheviks. Mm-hmm. And then the story continues because this repeats itself in Russia over and over and over again. Russia is one of the most heavily attacked countries in the world, constantly. And the reason, and this goes back to even the days of the Russian Empire, the reason for that is because of the gateway and gateway control. Plus, there's enormous amounts of resources there and a number of other things, let's just call them trinkets, that everybody wants to have. So all of these coups that have happened in the attacks on Russia were all about the Black Sun control or the Rothschild or Order of the Dragon control on behalf of their masters. They had to get control. Okay, so because they believed that America was at fault for crashing the ruble, they intended to crash the dollar. So they fired up the printing press in cooperation with Iran and started printing enormous amounts of supernotes. Now, supernotes, in both of these cases, including the one today, are serial numbers that have already been printed and are already in circulation, be it digitally or physical cash in your hand. So Mayer Rothschild thought it was a good idea to fire up the same exact printing press. And perhaps we will have forgotten these serial numbers. The key integrated monetary system may have forgotten that these serial numbers actually, already exist. And they were intending to flood the market with fake currencies, also fake Iraqi dinar, to prepare for a full crash. Now, there was going to be a soft crash in their brain starting today. That soft crash indication came when we watched, on behalf of Mayer Rothschild and the Rothschild clan, the NSA attempt to hack the key integrated monetary system and insert fake serial numbers.
And when did that happen, Kim?
This morning.
This morning? Okay.
Yes. So, no, they didn't get in. No, that didn't work. But if it worked with these countries, then they were going to print every other country's currency. Now, his plan was, by registering it, obviously way too much currency, it would then, this is what I've been telling you about supply and demand with currency. It would then have devalued the currency at a rapid rate. That's the first thing that happens. This would have been their version of a financial collapse. We would have seen hyperinflation. So what costs us, say it's $2 for a very inexpensive loaf of bread, and the dollar crashed, then you would be paying $102 for a loaf of bread, literally overnight. This is why supply and demand is so important when it comes to the price of goods, because your currency is not worth the same in the international market, and the U.S. is predominantly an importer of most everything. They create fake droughts. They try to stop our farmers from farming, those types of things. So we're getting, beef from Japan. We're getting, avocados from Mexico. Most our produce is coming from Chile, some other country somewhere. It's not being produced here. So as an American, this is what you would have seen happen in rapid succession. So if you think the price of food, oil and gas and everything else is expensive now, wait till your currency drops significantly overnight, and then you're going to see real pain. We've seen the same thing happen in various countries. We saw it happen in Brazil many years ago. We've seen it happen in Argentina. We've seen it happening currently in Venezuela. You're seeing it in Iraq. In any other country where they propose that there's going to be a revaluation, Vietnam, another one, Zimbabwe, another one. So the attempt to install, obviously, super notes into the banking system, because he realized that I have to get this registered in order to, and the NSA being the best hackers in the world, he figured they could do it. Well, they failed. This is not happening. It actually didn't even work out in the 70s. The only thing that did happen as a direct result was there was a coup in Iran in the fall of the Shah, which is the royal family there, and the installation of the Rothschild family, let's just say, in Iran, people that you would know as the Green Dragon, like Khomeini, and before that it was Khomeini, and others that came before them, the installation of a false imam, essentially, to take control of the country. And to this very day, they're all still listening to those people. So, and if they're not listening to them, then they're listening to their Chinese counterparts, the Li family and the Golden Dragon, which is ultimately going to end very badly for Iran. So if they want to continue to sell oil at $1 a barrel, to China and whoever, go right ahead. If they want to continue to listening to people like Mayor Rothschild, go ahead. Ultimately it will be your demise. If you enjoy, being under their control, getting paid nearly nothing, being considered a substandard country in their eyes, then continue on with this process. However, I will assure you that the promised crash is never going to happen. He will never get that money into the system, ever. But the plan was to use this money, once they got it into the system anyway, to not only crash the system, but also to use it to buy the world back at pennies on the dollar, which is why we have 100 countries on alert and it's all happening in 24 hours. No, it's not. Nothing will happen. Absolutely nothing will happen. Now, let's talk about Jacob Rothschild, too. That's hit the news. There was a death. The death of Jacob Rothschild in a shuffle behind the scenes amongst the families. So for those of you that don't know, this was actually a suicide. He committed suicide based on their failure and his failure as the head of the family. So for the first time in the history of the advent of this family, they are losing everything.
Wow.
So apparently they've named, I think it was a lady that as an heir or as the new head of the families. I'm not sure. But from behind the scenes, at least that's in the news, from behind the scenes, the top persons right underneath him, which Mayor Rothschild is one of those, is going to get the job done so he can show the family that he should be in charge.
Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, 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 dun. Ride in on your black horse and save the Luciferians.
So is that kind of protocol, Kim? Do these families have something that says, hey, if you screw up too bad, you're going to have to off yourself?
I don't know. I don't know. I know that culturally speaking, obviously that happened over in Asia.
Right.
Quite a bit to a lot of those family members. I wish. That would be good. That would save us a lot of time and effort in running around. He actually died, by the way, it was over a couple of weeks ago, about 10 days, 2 weeks ago. And so they just didn't announce it in the news until recently.
And was it actually him, or was there something crawled up in there still functioning? Or
I'd say, let's just say he probably wasn't alone in there.
Yeah, he had company.
Yeah, he's probably not alone for sure. Most of them had some kind of they're all chipped. They were all connected to those things in the past. Some of them had actually managed to do the switch. They take on another lower astral being and they're driven around like an avatar. Some of them not. Obviously, you would have to be over the age of 40 to have that happen. They're a little crazy that way. That was what the pyramid in near Balmoral Castle in Scotland was tied to. That's where the Queen went.
Yeah,
remember? Chucky went. They're also hiding the fact that he is basically on life support.
Who? Oh, Chucky is on life support?
Yeah, the real Chucky. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there is stuff in the news now about his health. And also with Kate, is there any relation, or is that just, do you know, with Kate Middleton?
Well, like we talked about, they want is it William, right, to take the throne because his birthday is on the, what do you call it, the solstice, summer solstice day? I don't know. And he's half and half. So they think that would be a good choice. That would help them, along the way, which it's not going to make any difference really. But she's too much of an influence on him. So let's just say I do not think it's a natural process, a normally occurring disease process that she's been going through in any way. That's pretty much a fact.
Wow.
And he knows it too. And he can't say a word.
What a horrible life.
Nope. They should have walked away the same time his brother did, Harry did, really. So we'll see how all that transpires. We'll see if there's actually a royal family, but most of the stuff is being driven by the families behind the scenes. Also something, speaking of this family, that's shown up on the internet over the last few days is the white horse being ridden without the king being present. So the rumor is that, or at least the cultural understanding of when the queens, or it's not the queen anymore, the kings, I guess, got to get used to that. It's been a long time since we've been saying queen. They have the royal guard, which is ridden on horseback, ride horseback, I should say. And they never take out the pure white horse unless the king or the queen in the past is present. And so they knew, based on the flag not flying over Buckingham Palace, that the king was not present. Therefore, why is the horse being ridden?
Interesting.
Yeah, it comes days before, it was over the weekend, so it comes days before the announcement of Jacob Rothschild's death. What are they trying to say? Who is the king? Is this kind of the four horsemen of the apocalypse story? Did someone automatically think they were going to be chosen the successor behind the scenes of the family and start basically declaring themselves the crown or the king of England? It got a little rough between the family members over there this weekend, or in the last 2 weeks.
Do you think that they would even announce Charles' death, even if he died?
They'll do it when it's convenient. It's the same thing with, remember, everybody dies in December because it's the easiest time for them to pull it off.
December.
Everybody dies in December. Yeah.
Oh boy.
So they could die, if it's a royal funeral like that, it takes a while to prepare, as several weeks, a month, whatever. So they could actually announce it earlier and then have the funeral take place in November, December, something like that. But it's usually after business is winding down for the year. In some countries, it's not so much around the annual holiday time from December 15th. It can take place during other religious holidays where their countries, like Islamic countries, shut down. The deaths occur usually around that time as well. So we don't know. I don't know when they're going to announce it. For that matter, they've kept a dead president on ice for 3.5 years now in the White House, just so the operatives could make some money. There's a second dead president running again for office, and they're just trying to cling to some kind of political control long enough until they can figure out how they're going to pull something off. But I guarantee you we will get to Friday. Nothing will happen. There'll be no money, no payouts for these people anyway, for those operations. I'm sure they're going to try to install something else. They were also trying to use a backdoor that remained in the computers of Airbus in Paris, France. So, this is Rothschild as well, to try to gain access to the financial system. That didn't really work out. So, the NSA is kind of pulling out all the stops. They give them the same speech, you're incompetent and how could you be the NSA and you can't, you used to work directly for Marduk. And of course it was me that told them that. Everything I do is for a reason. And I know it might not make sense to most people sometimes, but when I say something in the news, it's because I know they're listening. So I give them just enough rope to hang themselves. And I know based on the war, and it is a war that I have been in against the Black nobility families, against the Rothschild families, and all these people, what they are going to do, because they're extremely predictable. Right. There is no, and even for that matter, the people that work for them are extremely predictable. So I knew once I said out loud that, hey, the NSA used to have a direct line all the way up and all the way down, and it was afforded by Marduk and all of this stuff. So of course, the remaining family members were like, oh, we need to get the NSA back on board. And it was about a week ago tomorrow, a week ago today, actually, they started hacking our Telegram, hacking people's websites, sending erroneous emails, the slander campaigns back. People are crawling out of the woodwork and they're all angry and all of that kind of stuff. So it's okay. I'm actually flattered. I really am, because there are a lot of alternative media people out there. And you don't really see, there might be some people that might complain about a few things that are said, but, the narrative is pretty much the same. So if you're going to complain about one, they're going to complain about them all. Yeah. But me, on the other hand, I am probably I probably have won the prize, for the most heavily attacked human in the entire alternative media. So actually, I could probably qualify as the most attacked person in all of the media. Wouldn't you say? I mean, probably, yeah. Really, I mean, you've got TMZ and, they make fun of people when they go out with their yoga pants on or something like that. I've already done that, like I've got that too. Those pictures are out there. I hope they got paid, for that. Like, doesn't the paparazzi pay big money for that kind of stuff? No, they didn't. I know they didn't, but oh well, God bless them. But they insinuated that they would be paid big money because everybody says that they're going to do something, but then they never do. So, yep. And they got on the bus hot and heavy, but God bless them. But anyway, I'm actually, I feel pretty proud of that. Maybe we should order something I could put on my desk. What do you think?
Like a trophy?
Yeah, like something, most hated person in all of media worldwide.
Yeah.
It's okay. God bless them the way they bless others.
Ugh.
And if you've got that much time on your hands, good luck to you. So that's about the update I have for the last few days. That's about 5 days worth of update. There's a lot of twists and turns in the middle of there, but unfortunately, we need to be prepared to not take anyone with us.
So I was going to ask that. So now that the silent circle has apparently shown their true colors, that's just it. No more partnering with the silent circle. We're done.
Nope.
End of story.
And they know it too.
They know it too. Okay. And then what about the operatives? What about working directly with the operatives?
Well, in that particular case, it's every man for himself. They're not a group in my eyes. It's every person for themselves to make good decisions. Some make bad decisions, hopefully together as a group, they'll make good decisions. But, we can't count on that. You're always going to have one guy. I mean, even in some of these meetings that I was listening to this weekend, there's always that one guy that just has a bad day, gets up and decides to rattle everybody's cage. There's always that one guy.
Mm-hmm.
Either he got a call from somebody or he thinks that Trump should be in office or, they think that they should get paid big money for something, something, whatever it is, it's just there's always that one guy. So pretty much those guys are being ousted out of the meetings or not permitted to attend. There was a lot of kerfuffles about that kind of stuff over the weekend too, and over the last few days. So I can't say yes and I can't say no because at this moment it appears that nobody's doing much of anything without pay. So you pay them to do something, they'll do it. Does that mean that they're happy about it? I don't think so, because when we pulled all those bonds and pulled all that cash, we actually got a standing ovation in the meeting. Yes, we did. They were very happy to see that they did not have to go work for those people.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yep. So, I can see how I can see them saying like, look, hurry up, meaning us to hurry up. And I get it, because I wouldn't want to talk to those people either. And I don't want to hear about you wanting me to participate in killing millions of people around the world. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. To answer your question, that's, so far nobody's done anything to the contrary. They've done what they had to do to stay alive, and I get all that. So, at this moment, nobody's coming after me. Except for this, Silent Circle tried to get them to get me to give their money back. That was a little bit of a rough situation yesterday or day before. Yeah. They called the locals and told them that they need to go get me to give their money back. So, what money?
And then the SSP operatives, I know a lot of them were taken out. There were some that just left, though. They were just saying, I'm not doing this. Do you see any sign of them gathering or trying? What are these people going to do? They're just going to just sit there? I'm just wondering why someone.
They're going to make few websites. That's what they're going to do.
Yeah, I know. But
they paid for that hosting for a whole year. Damn it.
But why isn't some of these groups coming together saying, well, we know she just pulled all this money. We know she's got access to this stuff. Why don't we just partner with her? Why is nobody doing that on their end?
Do you want to know the answer to the question?
Yeah.
A very close friend of mine who was my supervisor said to me once, and he was a mentor to me, he said to me, he said, Kim, common sense is not all that common.
That's true.
You can't expect people that have been living their life one way to all of a sudden decide, they were told, remember, especially the Trump SSP operatives, they were told that they were going to be number 13 on the World Council. And they were repeat that same line of untruth was also told to them this weekend. So there are a couple, and these would have been down from the 4. There are a few that are still, working the website, putting out the information, 100 countries on standby. It's all happening now, all of these types of things. So, I don't see them wavering. I mean, I see them wanting to continue now because, see, they don't see it as, well, look at all the things that happened to us. Look at all the people that died. No, they see it's my turn. I can be on the World Council operative seat of the entire New World Order face front. I'm going to be the operative that's going to run whoever's going to sit there. Yeah. Yeah. It's a disease.
That ego. I mean, honestly, like that.
Yeah.
That's unreal.
Pride.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we've said all along, like, hey, if these guys don't come to the table, we're going at it alone. So I know you've been really busy, but I feel like everyone wants to know, okay, then where are we with moving ahead on our own? Is there any update that you can give us on that?
Well, as far as we are concerned, I'm just trying to figure out what I should say and what I should not say. I'm going to say that the safety and security of you and your money is of the utmost importance to me. Mm-hmm. The safety and security of the planet is of the utmost importance to me. Now, I would not do anything that I know is going to harm you, whether I'm capable of it or not. And at this stage, you can kind of see where the world is at. So the silent circle is obviously very angry at me right now. Mm-hmm. Rothschild has lost their mind. They're all trying to run for a position that doesn't exist. They all want to be the CEO of Enron, believe they're capable. And meanwhile, the financial sector is getting weaker and weaker and weaker. So, what happens when money is transferred to a single person? What happens when money is transferred to a few thousand people? What happens when money is transferred to a few million people? You have to take a look at possible situations which would ensure the safety of people. Now, we have different levels of people that are interesting to them. What happens when you transfer money to a scientist that has invented the cure for cancer versus what happens if we transfer money to a guy that wants to open a bakery? Mm-hmm. Who are they going to go after? So is there really safety in numbers in this case? No, possibly not. We just have to look at everything from every angle at this point. I do hope that there is a suicide pact, Sonny, because then Mayor Rothschild will probably have kicked the bucket before the week's end, so that'll be great for the world.
So is
great for the Middle East.
Is he in the number 2 spot, you said now, Mayor Rothschild?
There are, last I checked, there are about 5 people that were, let's just say, on the inner circle. Now that the 5 seats have rotated consistently, but I would say as far as someone who's still breathing, that is in the inner circle, that is still holding a seat in the third in line for the throne of the crown. I would say he's probably one of the longest standing parties that has managed to escape for whatever reason. Now, will that always be the case? Nah. No, it's just a matter of time. And that's pretty much the world situation report for, what day is it? Wednesday.
I know. The days just blend together. I did have another question. So with all the money that was pulled from the Silent Circle and all their bonds and everything, now they were basically supporting governments, right? Just keeping them kind of afloat. So with that money being
governments, BlackRock, State Street, we'll go ahead and we'll provide the collateral. You turn the company over to us, all major shares. They were going in and doing a hostile takeover of everything, everywhere.
Right.
Using fake bonds and fake money.
So with that money not there, then do you expect like governments to start to fall faster? I mean, you just took away the money that they had,
and the bonds.
Yes.
At this point, I think that the families, this is what I believe they will do everything and anything they can to kick the can as long as they can, because they feel that governments give them power and control. I do not think that they will allow a crash this weekend. But that's a thought process for a Wednesday. So I'm looking at this as a strategy. Everything is a strategy. Now, the interesting part, wouldn't this be, and I'll add to your question earlier, because they kind of go hand in hand at this point. So if the Rothschilds' plan was to buy everything up at pennies on the dollar, we already know that if we paid the operatives would work with us.
Right.
I'm not going to say for us. I'm going to say with us. Fair is fair. It just is a contract. And we already know that a lot of them are in the banking sector. They're all over Wall Street. They're, in every major bank in the world. Treasury is all operatives as well. Treasury Department, those are all operatives. So think about it for a second. So if they crashed, say, Friday, and this is a hypothetical question to ask yourself, hypothetically speaking, we were to pay the operatives also on Friday. Who do you think would be able to buy everything in the world? Hypothetically speaking, of course. Now, and the people to run it, right? Not to buy them, obviously. I don't look at these people as a commodity. I look at them as human beings. Sorry. I mean, they may have done fantastical things in their life, but they're just humans. So on the flip side of it, if somebody doesn't do something soon, pretty much, now without the backing, how long could they spend their own personal money, and are they willing to spend their own personal money to keep things afloat? Maybe they'll crash anyway. Maybe that would also happen to be the same day that operatives got funding. They're good buyers. They can buy a lot of stuff. They can buy people. They can buy. Heck, I've even seen them buy a Middle Eastern prince. I'm just going to leave that at that. A Middle Eastern prince for a case of Viagra. That actually happened. I watched that happen. That's what happens when you have all those wives. It happens.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So yes, I actually watched that transaction take place.
Oh my goodness.
Yep.
Wow.
And he gave him anything he wanted to give him after that for a case of Viagra. It works.
Wow.
Can't have 10 wives and I don't know how many mistresses and concubines or whatever.
You need some help. I get it.
You need something.
I get it.
Yeah. You need some blue pills or purple ones or whatever color it is your flavor. Yeah, you need that. So I'm just saying that these are all hypothetical situations.
Yeah.
We don't know. This is a war. We don't know what's going to happen on the other side. I didn't expect a zippy and exciting twist this weekend either, but it's what I got. So you got to take it and play the hand when it comes to you. Yeah. You got to think fast. You can plan for the future. If this event takes place, this will happen. If that event takes place, this will happen. So, and then you never know. Maybe it's not any one of those. It's something in between, or it's half and half, or, it's something completely out of left field that you never expected.
Yeah.
I expected honor and integrity to rule because it rules in their entire world. I mean, apparently not when it comes to world domination. Ha ha ha.
Yeah. Wow.
So on that note, any more questions, Miss Sunny?
I'm good. All
right.
For now. We'll see you on Friday.
Sounds great. See you on Friday.
Okay. Want to share news from UNN? Help us change the face of social media and use it for good.